Silent Hill 2 came out in 2001, and the game's Aardman children have been cradling its balls and tongue polishing its pyramid head ever since. And I have to wonder, is it really as good as we all remember? Sure, Silent Hill 2 broke new grounds in terms of graphics, gameplay, and storytelling, but so did Resident Evil Code Veronica, which went full action game and also full retard. On the flip side, Silent Hill 2 actually stuck to its horror roots and was the rare breed of game where the dangers players faced went beyond an Ooga Booga man jumping out of a closet and slapping them in the mouth with his dick. Sure, physical danger was present, but the dread Silent Hill 2 invoked was less about the grotesque monsters and more about how things might turn out for James. Instead of anime cliches flinging viruses at each other, Silent Hill 2's supporting cast were regular people suffering the consequences of their regular problems. They felt like they existed before the beginning of the game, and as the protagonist came to terms with them, Silent Hill 2 became a game that was as entertaining as it was sad. Laura may have been a key-kicking cunt with a gigantic water-filled progeria head, but when you find out why she's so mean to James, you'll kind of agree with her. Eddie may have been a typical fat fuck with a persecution complex, but it wasn't his fault. Sure, you can judge him for killing the people that laughed at him, but how sane would you be after being force-fed an endless supply of Hampton pizza? Angela may seem more like a typical Aspergian mama's girl at first, but when you realize why she is that way, you'll almost regret wanting to play her buttock cheeks like bongos while she cries and calls you daddy. Almost. And perhaps most importantly, Maria proves Confucius correct when he stated, "It is good to meet girl in park, but better to park meet in girl." Luckily, Maria doesn't block your path often, and when she does, you can just shove her aside harder than if she burned the roast. She represents an interesting twist on the concept of a love interest. Rather than existing as someone for the player or protagonist to fall in love with, she exists as a reminder of the person James really loves, who is supposed to be rotting in the ground. And while Maria may be the #1 customer of the hot-to-trot thought removal service with the kind of inadequate 1980s titties that John Cusack should be sucking on after winning a boat race against the son of the wealthy businessman who was trying to convert the local youth center into a yacht club, James's departed wife Mary was a literal pillow biter. Luckily, the game does a good job of not completely spelling out Maria's purpose, save for in the optional Born from a Wish scenario. This last second addition to the Xbox port of Silent Hill 2 was the first of many terrible Western additions to Silent Hill. You can play it if you want, you can also suck an AIDS dick if you want. That doesn't mean you should do it, unless of course, the AIDS dick is mine. Then by all means proceed, and don't be afraid to work the yam bag. With his flaws, fears, and failures, the protagonist of Silent Hill 2 is especially relatable. James suffers not only from the horrors of the enemies around him, but from adult fears like rejection, dealing with the death of loved ones, and the results of forensic DNA tests. James reacts like a real person and is often just as confused as you are, although sometimes James does do the stupidest thing possible in a given scenario. Control-wise, James can do pretty much anything you'd expect a regular person to be able to do, save for not running like an idiot. Despite all the top-tier animations in this game, James still runs like every hack black comedian from the 90s doing an impression of a white man. Hey, did you ever notice that when a brother walks, he's like, oh yeah? But when a cracker walks, he's all like, diddly-leet, diddly-loot, diddle-a-diddle-a-doodly-doot. Attentive players will note that James's head tracks objects of interest, which is especially helpful when running in the dark. After sprinting long distances, James runs out of breath, and if you run off of a ledge or into a wall, James stumbles like an idiot. Fortunately, James can move while shooting, strafe, quick turn, and track moving enemies with his attacks. The combat system is fairly simple, and thanks to the expert level demonstration of game mechanics, the player learns the mechanics without intrusive button prompts or tutorials. The first enemy appears directly after you pick up the first weapon, and the close quarters force the player to take it down. Enemies grunt like a retard taking an Indian food shit when you hit them, encouraging the player to avoid combat completely whenever possible. And the first enemy attracted to light appears in the same room you receive your light, and doesn't attack until your light shines upon it. The developers thought of nearly everything in terms of this light mechanic. James carries a map that he alters to reflect which routes he can and cannot take, but the map is not magic. He can't read it in the dark, no more than he can unlock a door in the dark, pick up items in the dark, or fluff a pillow without crying. The game forces you to choose when to go dark in order to avoid enemies' attention and when to shine a light, all without a single tutorial. It also helps that, in terms of design, polish, attention to detail, and evoking an emotional response, Silent Hill 2 blows everything else out of the water. To this day, games are still being released where mirrors are broken to avoid casting reflections, light sources fail to cast shadows in real time, and buildings lack basic necessities like kitchens and bathrooms. While the layout of areas can become absurd at times, that is done to play off the majority of areas which have logical layouts and realistic lived-in spaces. Cinematic camera angles frame spaces for the maximum amount of dread, while the manual override controls reveal lurking enemies and hidden oddities. Darkness, volumetric fog, and visual noise induce dread and make the player question if they can trust their eyes. As a result, the player can never feel safe and is never truly comfortable. From Akira Yamaoka's impeccable soundtrack, endings based on how the player behaves rather than on binary choices, and the open-ended nature of the lore, Team Silent created a truly unique game that has yet to be topped near 20 years later. So overall, yes, Silent Hill 2 is just that good. If someone tells you otherwise, you need to cut them out of your life like that thing that keeps growing back on my inner thigh.